Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. I'm your host, Old Man Nate, and it's game 5 of the Oklahoma Sooners this week as they take on the Auburn Tigers. They're 3-1 heading into this week, coming off a loss from Tennessee last week, 25-15. Tough game. We'll get into that in a minute. Before we get started, we'll see if some people will jump on here in a minute. By the way, if you do jump online, please tell me, say who you are and where you're from, and comment on anything that I have to say. I really appreciate that. So we've got a couple games going on right now. We got Kentucky and Ole Miss in a nail-biter. It's tied at 10 right now. See if I can get another game on my TV real quick. Well, we're waiting on people to see if they join. Let's see, what other game you want to watch? I don't know what game that is. We'll change the channel on that one. I'm going to watch that one. Going up here. There we go. We'll leave it at Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Looks like Oklahoma State just threw an interception. Bad pass by Bowen, everything. Kansas State's up 15 in that game. Yep, bad pass, guy. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to release our new top 25. Now, normally I pull up a slideshow and go over it. I didn't have time this week to put one together. So I'm just going to, and since we're doing a live show, I'll just name them. And then next week I'll be more prepared. Okay. So first thing I'm going to name is the teams that are on the outside looking in. I got North Carolina, who's 3-1, Boston College, who's 3-1, and when I looked at the scores earlier, they're actually losing today, so they may drop it. We'll see how that turns out, though. Arizona is 2-1. Kansas State, who's 3-1, as I just mentioned, they're beating Oklahoma State right now. Indiana, who's 4-0, they was in a tight one earlier. They was up at halftime, though. And USC, who's 2-1, coming off their first loss last week to Michigan. Northern Illinois, who's 2-1. UNLV, who's 3-0. But hey, I don't know if you guys heard this week. Again, if you're online watching, hey, leave in the comments where you're from and anything I have to say you like or dislike, just go ahead and comment on. I got the comments up. I'll read them back. So UNLV, I don't know if you guys heard, but they had the first real controversy, we'll say, when it involves NIL with NIL and the players. So it's still kind of iffy on exactly what happened. I've heard a couple of things. But anyways, the quarterback, he's undefeated, like I just mentioned, 3-0. Looking pretty good. Their quarterback, the only quarterback who's really played significant time this season, he decided, hey, I'm done for the season. They haven't played. You can play up to 4 games and redshirt. So he had one more game he could have played and made the decision. But he said, no, I'm hanging up now. And he's blaming it on he was not promised, or he has not received what he was promised in NIL earnings. Now, some people are saying the university come out and basically said that he got what he was promised, all the scholarships and everything. So again, usually your schools aren't in direct. You're not getting money directly from the school. Okay. The schools are involved in ways, but it's not like the school itself pays you. They get the money from sponsors and other things. So, these recruiting battles, I know the coaches, they promise these players, hey, you come here, you get $1 million. You come here, you get 500,000. And, I don't know if the players expect everything up front, which that's that's bad if you're a school. You don't want to do that. All right. There and I'll get into some more talk about that, but like well, since we're talking about NIL, there's been some speculation about, and it's just speculation, okay? It is there's no hard proof or anything like that. But OU is got like 10 players out this week, and they've had about 7 or 8 of them have been hurt all before the season started. And there's some speculation that these players got what their money already, and they they're going to go pro next year. They don't want to take a risk because it can happen. You can get hurt and your season be done. Andrell Anthony, who's was had a great season last year, heading into the Texas game, tore his ACL in the Texas game, and he hasn't been able. I mean, he's tried to come back, but he just hasn't been the same player. I don't know if it's mental or if it's actually he just not quite back healthy yet. So, but your players on your team see that this kid was heading to the pros, and one play may have cost him his NFL career. They're able to strike these NIL deals where a lot of them is not guaranteed playing time. It's not guaranteed you have to perform on the field. They just give you the money. You represent us. Sometimes you do a commercial. Really outside of that, and your name being linked to this sponsor, whatever. There's nothing else you really do. You don't wear anything on your jersey. You ain't got to wear nothing out in public. Now, if you do a podcast or something like that, then they'll probably ask you to do something. But other than that, they don't ask much. And so here we are back with UNLV, and they, their quarterback is already sitting out because he's saying he didn't get what he was promised. And who knows exactly what it was that he was promised. There's also rumors that, he I'm sure I thought I had some messages here. I don't. Okay. Oh, hold on. I'm going to do something really quick. Forgot I did doing this. We're going to share this. I'm going to share this real quick. So, sharing my stream. Get this. Let me get this over here. I'm going to share this. There we go. One more thing. There we go. And let's see here. Go. Last one. All right. Here we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Had to share my stuff. All right, so yeah, so this NIL, if there's nothing in writing, or if there's nothing in writing, you're promised something. That doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Okay, so the UNLV guy who quit is on his team. I'm calling it quitting on his team because he says he didn't receive what he was promised. If it's not in writing, you got what you know what you I don't want to say promised because you're saying you wasn't getting you didn't get what you was promised, but you got what you got what the schools intend on paying you. Okay, so anyway, the next outside looking in, we got Tulane who's 2-2, who's looking pretty good today this morning, and Washington State, who's 4-0. Those are my outside looking in. Teams that dropped out of my top 25 are number 14 TCU dropped all the way out, number 24 Liberty dropped all the way out, and number 25 Wisconsin dropped all the way out. So here's my new top 25. At 25, we got my Oklahoma Sooners. All right. They suffered their first loss last week. In fact, honestly, I was going to remove them all the way out because their offense is just so terrible. Their defense is extremely, extremely good. One of the best in the country. And they're going to keep them in games. But until they get that offense fixed, you got to score points to win. Okay? So defense did a good job of putting us in a position to score points last week, and 2 times right after we got our turnovers, both times we got turnovers, the very first play, we turn it right back over. Okay, so when you got an offense like that, your defense almost has to score the points. Your special teams have to score the points or create. I'm not even saying create. They got to opportunities. They got to score them, and that's how bad our offense is right now. Now, did we look better once Hawkins came in? Yes, but mostly because he can create things. Arnold could run the ball too, but he just wasn't. He wasn't doing it. So he looked scared. He looked nervous out there. Hawkins looked poised enough. He missed some plays. There was, on the run for when he got dove in the air and it was just barely short of the end zone. There was a guy wide open in the end zone. All right, and on the other one that he ran when he was short, there was a guy cutting across the middle. It was wide open in the end zone. So, but again, he's a true freshman. So we got to do better. We'll get more into that game though. Okay. Number 24, I got Boston College. Like I said earlier, they're struggling today. We'll see how long see if they're able to pull it out. Hey, big salute, Frank. Appreciate you dialing in. Number 23, I got Nebraska. Number 22, Boise State. Number 21, I got Oklahoma State. They lost one last week to Utah. It's a good, Utah's a good team, but you're at home. You got to hang on. You got to win those. And they're on the road today against Kansas State, and they're losing right now. So they might be out all the way, my top 25 next week. At number 20, we got I messed up. On my outside looking in, I mentioned Washington State. I messed up. I forgot I did put them in my top 25. They're number 20. Washington State is number 20 at 4-0. Number 19 is Indiana. They're in a nail biter this morning. We'll go over some scores here in a minute, but I know they was up 14-7 at halftime. At 18, we have Texas A&M. At 17, Clemson. 16, Louisville. Louisville's got a big game today at Notre Dame. I think Louisville does win that game, though. Number 15, Missouri. Missouri struggled against Boston College and then struggled at home. Both of these games at home against Boston College and at home against Vanderbilt last week. Had to go to overtime. Vanderbilt is better than they have been in the past, but still, it's Vanderbilt. Okay? That's about like when OU was in the Big 12, at one time Kansas was really horrible. Kansas is a little better now, but Kansas ain't very good this year, but it still was a little better. So when you was struggling against Kansas, that was bad. At 14, we have Iowa. 13, UCF. UCF had a tough one with TCU, but came back to win last week. Number 12, Notre Dame. Like I mentioned earlier, they played Louisville today. That should be a good one. At 11, SMU. Nobody's talking about SMU because they lost to BYU, but BYU is looking really good. So that may not be such a bad loss now. And it was a close one. They had a chance to win. They just didn't quite. They kicked too many field goals against. They did not put it in the end zone. Number 10, Penn State. Penn State's got a tough one today against Illinois. Number 9, Hey, I got them down here, but number 9, Alabama. Um, they haven't been, impressive today, but they got a chance. They got a chance to prove me wrong tonight as they host Georgia. That will be a good one. Number 8, Oregon. Oregon looked a little bit better last couple of weeks, but they still got some improvements to do in order to, because I have them win a national championship. So in my preseason, so in order for me to be right, they got some improvements to do. Number 7, Utah. Utah went on the road to Stillwater and won last week. That's an impressive win. And by the way, they did it without Cam Rising. Zach Wilson's little brother, a freshman, went into Stillwater and got the victory. So I'm not sure if Cam's playing today or what the extent of his injury is, but hopefully he can come back. Number 6, Tennessee. They went into Norman and beat up my Sooners. Um, and we're going to get into that game here in just a minute. But yeah, good win for Tennessee. They looked impressive. Number 5, Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is struggling right now. They're trailing 13-10 in the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Number 4, Miami. Miami got a win last night, but it's going to be controversial. Me personally, I didn't get to watch the game. I've seen some highlights of the Hail Mary that Virginia Tech threw, and I don't think the receiver ever had control of the ball. So why it was called a touchdown, I don't know. Now, was it conclusive evidence to overturn? That's really the biggest question. And I'm not sure that there was. I just did not see. It looked like the ball was always moving, and then he landed on a player that's out of bounds. I'm not even 100% sure if that makes him out of bounds. If it does, then he didn't have 2 feet down, or he didn't have a foot down and control the ball. So yeah, controversial win we've talked about all week. Number 3, Ohio State. They haven't looked really impressive, but they're Ohio State. We know they're loaded. Uh, see if their quarterback can win a big game. That was a struggle they had last year. Number 2, Georgia, and Georgia struggled against Kentucky a couple weeks ago, which now Ole Miss is struggling against Kentucky. Maybe Kentucky is better than people are giving them credit for. Their defense is, at least. Their offense is doing enough. But I thought Ole Miss's defense was going to be good enough to really stop Kentucky, and they haven't. They really haven't been able to do that. So, and number 1, I got the Texas Longhorns. The Sooners are going to find out in a couple weeks just how good those Texas Longhorns are. But yeah, they've looked impressive both sides of the ball all season. They haven't played anybody. Oh, well, I take it back. They did beat Michigan, but you see, Michigan is not in my top 25. Michigan is not even on my outside looking in, even though they're 3-1. They're one-dimensional, and their defense is decent. It's not as good as it has been in the past, but Texas tore them up. So a good passing defense or passing offense will destroy them. And then they can only run the ball. They can't throw it. So if you're one-dimensional, you have to do it really, really well, which they did last week. And they're doing it. I think they're up right now 28-7 or something like that. So they are doing it really well right now. But can they do that against Ohio State? They did it against USC, but USC doesn't have a good running defense at all. So can they do it against Ohio State? Can they do it against Penn State? Which I don't think they play Penn State this year. Can they do it against Rutgers? Rutgers got a really good team. That was who I meant to put on my outside looking in, not Washington State. I meant to put Rutgers. So yeah, Rutgers with a win last night over Washington. So anyhow, that's my top 25. Now we're going to talk about the Tennessee and Oklahoma game. Hey, first of all, I want to talk to you guys about. I'm getting a lot of feedback from Tennessee fans who try to say that Josh Heupel took it easy on the Sooners. He slowed the offense down. That's why he ran the ball so much. I don't really think you guys watch your football team play. All right, I really don't, because so here, here's the thing. I'm gonna name some name some numbers for you. Well, first of all, we're gonna go over the OU game. Okay, so in the OU game, Tennessee passed the ball for just 21 times, 194 yards, 9.2 average, one touchdown. They ran the ball 52 times, all right, for 151 yards, 2.9 yard average, all right, and one touchdown. 17 was their longest run, okay? 17 yards was the longest run. And everybody's telling me, hey, they ran the ball 52 times. That's not Josh Heupel usually throws the ball more. Again, he only threw the ball 21 times. All right. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this. You obviously don't know anything about your offense, because Josh Heupel's offense is, even though it's a spread out offense, it's primarily geared towards run first. It's a run first offense. You don't believe me? Okay. So let's take a look at some numbers here. All right. Against Chattanooga, they did throw the ball 44 times for 414 yards, 9.4 average. But they also ran it 46 times. Okay? 46 times for 304 yards, 6.6 average. Okay? North Carolina State. Against North Carolina State, he only passed the ball 23 times. That's only 2 more times than he did against OU. But he ran the ball 44 times. That's 19 more times than he threw the ball. Okay? And then against Kent State, they threw the ball 25 times and they ran it 55 times. So again, it's a run for only in the first game of the season against Chattanooga was it a balanced. Every other time it was more than half the time he threw the ball. Okay. Another thing I heard was that's why they was able to gash for the Sooners for yards in the end. Again, their longest run was 17 yards, and that was the very last run play of the game where Nico carried it. And it was also, I believe, the only time where they had the read option where Nico kept the ball. Okay. If they would have kept it more times, maybe you would have got more gashes to run. All right. Because Nico made a great run. Billy Bowman was right there for the stop. And it was an All-American, and he just shaked him out of his shoes. Great run by Nico. He probably could have scored, but again, it was a minute to go of the game. We used all of our timeouts. It's kneel down time. Get out of there. Get out of Norman. So great job by Tennessee in last week's game. I'm not taking nothing away. Their defense played phenomenal, but I will say this: we don't know how good their defense is because Oklahoma's offense was so trash, because there were spots that were open. Our defense created turnovers. If our offense punches the ball in, it's a different ball game. Even with Arnold at quarterback, okay, we couldn't run the ball. Matter of fact, let's go back here. I'm going to look and see what was. I think we ran for like 20 yards. Let's look at here again. Let's see, running 36 yards. We had 36 yards rushing total. Michael Hawkins ran for 22. Deion Burks ran for 18. Taylor Tatum ran for 14. Javonte Barnes ran for 12. Gavin Sawchuk, -2. Sam Franklin, -3. And Jackson Arnold, -21. So our longest rush also was just for 17 yards, Javonte Barnes, and that was on the outside. I remember that play. He got lit up on it, but he came back in the game. So, hey, hats off to Tennessee. Great game, great win. Y'all deserve to win. I'm just saying, OU's offense was trash, and it's not so much of what you guys did on defense. And offensively, we slowed y'all down. All right, it's that simple. Now let's move on and let's talk about this upcoming game between the Auburn Tigers and the Oklahoma Sooners. So this game is, both teams lost last week. Auburn is 2-2 heading into the season. Oklahoma's 3-1. Auburn, Oklahoma hasn't played their best game. Well, their best win, I should say, I guess, is Tulane. They beat Temple, Houston, which they barely beat, and then Tulane all at home. So this is the Sooners' first road game. We're starting a true freshman at quarterback. That's got to be, a positive for Auburn, not for Oklahoma. But if he just controls the game or manages the game and, takes care of the ball, then we'll be in the game, okay? But Auburn hasn't, all their games have been home too, and they're 2-2. Their losses to, when you play their Power 5 teams they play, which is Arkansas and California, they lost. They lost both of them. When they didn't play a Power 5 team, they won. So here they are playing another Power 5 team, even though it's not a confident Power 5 team right now. It is a Power 5 team. So Auburn's got to be a little nervous as the Sooners come to town. And the biggest thing that I noticed in this is turnovers, okay? Oklahoma leads the nation in creating turnovers. Auburn, I don't know if they're leading the nation in turnovers, but they're up there, okay? Auburn's averaging turning the ball over 3 times a game. They against and all their losses. Matter of fact, in all their games, they turned the ball over more than their opponent except for one, and that was against. Here, let me look at their. I gotta look at their schedule. Forgot who it was. They played New Mexico, but they both turned it over 2 times. They even turned the ball over more when they played Alabama A&M. They turned over twice. Alabama A&M only turned over once. But last week against Arkansas, they turned over 5 times. Against California, they turned over 4 times. So, yeah. And Oklahoma doesn't turn the ball over a lot. They did turn over 3 times last week. All 3 mistakes by Jackson Arnold, who I'm not going to say won't play today because I think he will play, but he is not going to start. So we'll put it that way, okay? Give you some score updates real quick. Ole Miss is beating Kentucky right now 17-13. Michigan's on top of Minnesota 24-10. Kansas State is now putting it on Oklahoma State. They're up 35-13. BYU's up on Baylor 34-21. And let's see, we get some other scores up real quick. They're not top 25. Indiana now up on Maryland 35-21. Nebraska up on Purdue 13-3. UConn putting it on Buffalo 44-3. They have their quarterback actually is from OU. He didn't play much. He transferred over there. I forget which one it is, honestly. Western Kentucky beating Boston College halfway through the 4th quarter 20-14. North Carolina State up on Northern Illinois 24-17. Syracuse up on Holy Cross 35-14. Navy up on UAB 31-10. Tulane up on South Florida 38-10. And James Madison beating Ball State 29-7. All right, well, that is going to conclude it for my pregame show. I appreciate you guys all for watching. Give me some feedback. Let me know if you like, dislike, what I'm screwed up on. Tell me all of it. I don't care. I always do reply to comments. Again, appreciate all those that did watch. Thank you, Frank, for watching. And anybody else that watched, I appreciate it. And I'm going to release another show this week with my new top 25. We'll try and get out earlier in the week. Maybe might do it up tomorrow. I won't have much to do tomorrow, so I might do it tomorrow and release it for Monday. Anyways, I appreciate all y'all for watching, and go Sooners today. And we'll see you next time right here on Old Man Sports Talk.